This segment of the Indigenous Languages Series was filmed in the Canadian Museum for Human Rights, situated on ancestral land on Treaty 1 territory. Robert Maytwayashing is Anishinaabe, raised in his people on the Lake Manitoba First Nation located in the Interlake Region of Manitoba. Robert is a pipe carrier, sweat lodge keeper, and attends the annual ceremony of Sundance. Robert has also hosted warrior lodges and eagle dances, to name a few. Over the years, Robert has served his Lake Manitoba First Nation community as both a council member and as a chief. Robert was also a health director in 2 First Nation communities and the Senior Health Policy Analyst for the Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs.
Ang bojon din ay maganitok, so ang gigabo miskumas ko tebe sikin tego makondo tem. Ako etos migot ngap mikit oas sema agi binan amagwan oma manito migot minak menon noong ngap mates ngip minigwang. Bak sendam we wake noom on akshek chip mit debach man gegu. Ani ni goe mam kuisian chip mit debach man. Ngap misaga nya sim da sapitchenak manu jan knute magian oma den sut toita ya memet again o Anishinaabe musik oganen minik gegu tesen taman. Mit sakwe ngap misaga na sim. Ni wis when ngap mitasin dan so ye munya wis when ngap me we in this tago. Good evening, my relatives. First off, I wanted to give thanks for this gift of tobacco that I received, and I asked our great Creator to take pity on me and to come stand with me as I share what little knowledge I carry with respect to who we are as Anishinaabe people and what we have to offer the world. I introduced myself with my traditional name, which is Strong Standing Red Buffalo, and also shared with you that I'm of the Bear Clan. And there's a reason that we do that as Indigenous people. Prior to contact, we didn't carry the surnames that we all carry today. So how did we keep track of who is related to whom? For us, it was the clan system. And I'm also aware that there are other Indigenous peoples throughout the world that also utilize that clan system. In the old countries of Europe, as an example, the ones that come to my mind are the Celts. They use the clan system. I've had opportunity to travel the world and to sit in circle with other Indigenous nations. And you'd be surprised after I've gone and shared whatever it is I'm sharing, wherever it is I am. Somebody may approach me later from the audience, come shake my hand and say, "Welcome to my homeland, brother. I too am Bear Clan." We don't know how, where, or when this all took place in our lineage, but through that clan system, all we know for sure is that we are directly blood related. So that's why we offer that piece of information when we introduce ourselves as to which clan we come from, because we never know who within the audience is our relatives. So therefore the onus falls upon my relatives that may be in that audience to come and introduce themselves to me as a blood relative. And that's why we do that, to maintain that contact and keep, I guess, track of that lineage. My English name is Robert, and my family name is Maytwayashing. It's been bastardized, and the way it's pronounced nowadays, and this is a direct result of the old Indian agents, is Maytwayashing. But the proper pronunciation is Maytwayashing. And there's some meaning to that last name. It's in reference to one of our sacred ceremonies, Chizikan, Kaichigatek, the one we call the shake tent ceremony. And it's referencing the noise that this ceremony makes once the ceremony is started and has begun. There are usually bells that are tied to the structure of this lodge. Back in days of old, I imagine it would have been deer claws or something to that effect. And when the spirits enter that lodge starts to vibrate and move. And a lot of people that don't understand spirit look at that with skepticism. They don't understand that the spirit is all around us, and that spirit, although you can't see it, taste it, smell it, or feel it, it's present around us all the time, and that spirit is within everything. So when that lodge moves, it starts to make that noise, and that's what my last name is referencing. Mi Maytwayashing Chizikan. Giga Gwichimigu, Chipmitebachi Vano Mabe Bagige Guno Monakshik, Anishinaabe, and Anigegi Naiteji over Tamingwe, Bekip Matsi Nan, Omanuko Misui Wing, Kapmiwi Jane Gegi Night. Mi Etish Gapmitebach and Bepangigegu, Anigegi Night. Ejiwaba taming ye bematisen. Apanego manitu gibapenemonan. Ani gwekchi nishkai. At a sukana keno and the Sundance makana matabiot keno ge wechemananik the sanego. Ani gwekchi nishkai. Genukumis nanik shoge win when nukumis kainent. Meet a squeminong up mit the shaganashi. As Indigenous people, we are people of spirit. We firmly believe that we are all spiritual beings having a physical experience, and that we are here for a reason. There's something that we're supposed to do as to why we're here. And part of the challenge that we face in life, more so today than in days of old, is to help us find what that purpose is. Back in the days of old, we had different rites of passage. We had different ceremonies that helped us to find our purpose. Like a rite of passage back in the days of old for the young boys when they reached puberty was to go out and cry on the original mother to us all, which is the mother, our earth mother, Nukumis. It is said a man cannot be a man until he has gone and cried to his mother to help him find his spirit, his direction, his vision. Which to me makes perfect sense, because when I look at the world around me today, you see 30, 40, 50, 60-year-old men still acting like teenagers because they haven't gone through that rite of passage. They have not found their purpose and meaning in life. They have not gone through that rite of passage. In today's society, a rite of passage for a young person is when they turn 16. They are now eligible to get their driver's license. And the one that disturbs me the most, and I was no different, is when you turn 18 in some provinces, other provinces a little later, or the United States, it's 21, I think you know what I'm getting at, is you are now legal to enter a place where they sell alcohol or to go and purchase alcohol. And it is that very poison that is hurting our people to this day. It's not something that we had traditionally. It's not something that we used traditionally. It's something that was introduced. Our elders tell us, pertaining to the usage of alcohol, that if you're going to attend ceremony, you need to abstain at least 4 days prior before that ceremony starts. And the teaching behind that is this. When a person first ingests that alcohol, the first thing that happens to that young person, because it's usually a young person, is they want to expel that alcohol they ingested. They throw up. Shishigagweok, Majayok, Kaiminumanchosiok, Majentabuk. They feel ill. Their stomachs are upset. Their spirits are low. And the reason the body is trying to expel that alcohol, because the body sees that's a poison, and the spirit recognizes it's a poison and helps the body try to expel that alcohol. But with respect to how powerful our minds are, we don't heed the warning of our spirits and our bodies, and we listen to our minds instead, and we continue to ingest to the point where we become inebriated and we lose control of ourselves. And then things can happen that can not only hurt us, but hurt those around us. Which is why, again, our elders always caution us, be careful when using or playing with that alcohol. It wasn't meant for us. It's something that the newcomers brought here, and they've somehow developed a tolerance to it. Our people have not to this day. But enough of that. I just wanted to share that because I'm trying to allow Spirit to work through me as to what message they feel needs to be shared. Atsukanak na penmonatok, taganin winoen ejewabatamwat, jijenuntamek, nongum wega gagi gituan, miye jebagusendaman. Shigutasmino, nigan we Anishinaabe yegan Anishinaabe Indian yegaigwang and debe kaudasemagakie Munya otan aninge kapi jetasendang yewenchewiswang Bakanda snaskegi naitikitisikendamen nin membertekendap skuwe omaga namatabian dan Anishinaabe mit nukani anin Anishinaabe Siwispen huyovataman kaikkituan kigituan Anishinaabe ande kaundasemaga Anishinaabe Oginissenan manetun ayaben miye Anishinaabe gaichigate mitasquemino gapmishaganashim. The term Anishinaabe in my language references pretty much a human being. And when you break down that word within my language, Oginissenan is to lower ayaben, a being. And that's where that term Anishinaabe comes from. Our Great Spirit lowered a two-legged onto the earth. And that two-legged was us, the Anishinaabe. Shigoye oesiak kenage usagoma king up me ayamagak ka penimwang mi ekweminong up mitasentan ngap mishagan ashimtas. I'll give you a very small blurb of our creation story. And like most people out there, we too have our own creation story. There are many different creation stories around. But when it comes to us as Anishinaabe people, the small blurb that I'm going to share here is this. After everything had been created, all the trees, the plant life, all things that are green, the ones that live in the waters, the winged ones, the four-leggeds, the insects, all of these things, after all these things had been created, our Great Spirit gave instruction to all these things that a new being was going to be created. a two-legged, but that this being would be so helpless, so pitiful, so much in need, that at some point in the existence of all these other things that had been created, they would have to give of themselves in order for this two-legged to survive. And the moral of that story is this: when you look at the world that we live in today, man has treated the earth as a resource to be exploited, not the very source of life itself, of which we are merely one strand in that web of life. For if you think about it, if there was one species to be taken off the earth in order for everything to survive, that species would be us, the human being. Our relatives don't need us around. If we were to disappear tomorrow, they would be fine. They would continue doing what our great Creator gave them in following their original instructions. But if we were to lose all of our relatives, do you think we as humans could survive? No. Again, it's trying to show us that reciprocal relationship that we're supposed to have with the earth and all that is upon the earth. We're supposed to have that respect. We're supposed to humble ourselves. And of course, we're supposed to love one another in all things around us. Mi manitu kaja penaman tagwang kegi night agi bagitene me gwang omachip matisiang. Anin jijaga novatiang, shigo anin gegu jijaga novataming. Jamanach twang gegu, akina gegu ma king manitu agi jabagit nang. Pushke yenepe. Ispegega nebegi ayamagas nok, kaina anish kitagas kitu seven, kegi night omachip mishkai. Me pichik chine dao kienepe. I spoke very briefly about that sacred gift that we call water and just how important water is. I've had opportunity, as I shared with you earlier, to sit in ceremony with other Indigenous nations. And we have a belief that initially there were 4 original races of man. And the irony in that is science is starting to pick that up, Western science, using archaeology and some of these other sciences that they use. And they're finding evidence that we interacted with these other peoples long before Columbus supposedly showed up on our shores back in 1492. Even here in the land we now call Canada, back in 800 AD, we had visitors. And how we described them, and this was with no disrespect, is we called them a very hairy, very smelly people, because I guess they didn't bathe very often. And the people I'm referencing are the Vikings, the Norsemen, that lived on the east coast of what we now call Canada. And even there's archaeological evidence of villages that were over there of these people. And we took them in. We showed them how to survive on our lands. But with respect to that water that I talked about earlier, our black brothers and sisters, within our understanding of the gifts and responsibilities of each nation, each race of people, have the responsibility of looking after the water. And I want to share the words that I heard this, for lack of a better term, black elder share with respect to their understanding of their responsibility of looking after that sacred water. His words went like this: the tear that runs down my face is the very same tear that runs down your face. It is the same tear that has run down the faces of our ancestors, and it'll be the same tear that runs down the faces of those yet to come. For when you think about it, he said, all the water that is here has been here since time immemorial, since our great Creator placed it here. It does not come from outer space, nor does it dissipate into outer space. It is continuously going through a cycle of cleansing. It evaporates and falls, The surface waters are constantly moving to cleanse themselves, which is why he said, we need to ensure the integrity of that water tomorrow is as it was yesterday, which ironically is identical to within our own nations as Indigenous people, where it is our women folk that have the responsibility and the understanding of working with that water in a sacred way. Because it is our women folk, ikweok kakakishko swat avenojan nitaigiot mino nigan jijimachang. It is our women that have that gift of bringing that life into this world. And when a child is first conceived, it is entombed, maybe a poor choice of words, encased, surrounded by water, embryonic fluid within the womb. And when it's time for that child to enter this physical realm through those natural birth waters and through that natural passageway, those birth waters break to clear the area and to prepare that child to enter this physical realm. So when we do ceremony, it is our women that are always praying over that water and doing that water ceremony. Whenever we lift the pipes or are doing ceremony of any kind, our women are always present and they're reminding us and praying over that water, and then that water is shared. So those are some things that I wanted to share, and I've interspersed, a lot of it is English, because if you want to get the message across to the masses, that's the common language. But I also try and share as much within my own language as I can for those of my people that still understand. And they will get what I'm saying. They will be able to read in between those lines. So that's all I have to say for now, and we'll talk again. Miigwech.